Today we're going to be carrying on with Berserk. We're now at volume 7, so I'll be reading volumes 7, 8 and 9 today. Volume 7, here we go. I am probably about a third of the way through volume 7. And volume 7's literally given me everything that I wanted from this series so far. My only criticism of Gus as a person so far was just that he was just so shut off. He was closed off to the world. He let nothing go, let nothing out. He was just a closed book. And it were abundantly clear that he just used violence as a way to just release all his emotions, everything that he'd kind of kept in from all the traumas and abuse he'd suffered as a kid. He'd just got to war and he just killed and killed and killed and killed. And in this book, in volume 7, I think when we got Casca's story, kind of towards the back end of volume 5 and into volume 6, I feel like her opening up a little bit to him since they've kind of been together, and her explaining that she's been through stuff as well and why she is the way she is and why she's so loyal to Griffith and the Band of the Hawks. I feel like it's helped him be a better person, and he's now starting to make sacrifices that aren't selfish. They're surrounded by like hundreds and hundreds of warriors, and he's obviously whooping ass and stuff, but he's injured and he won't give up. And he's like, look, Casca, you need to leave. She's like, I'm not leaving you. He's like, no, you need to leave or you're going to die. And she's like, why are you doing this? Like, do you like me? She don't actually say that, but he says it inside. He's like, maybe I do like her. And he's like, nah, I don't like people. I just want to kill stuff. And then he says something to her like, maybe you're right. Maybe I am just happy when I'm killing things. But I like the fact that for the first time this series, I am watching Guts make what I would see as morally courageous decisions. Whatever his kind of reasons behind it, I don't care. He's making good choices, and I am so here for it. It's just class. Volume 7 finished. I would have checked in with you before, but I was just enjoying reading, and I didn't really want to press record to stop the enjoyment. I'm in the middle of a battle. I think it's the battle for Doldry or something like that. And like pretty much every volume I've read so far, the end of volume 7 doesn't finish the battle. So volume 8 is going to continue the battle and it's on a cliffhanger. But I just thought it was good to have a natural pause so I could say my thoughts and feelings and dive straight into volume 8. A few things that I forgot to mention before that I really appreciate, because it mentioned it towards the end of volume 7 as well, was Casca and her periods. And I've never read any book before where it really goes into the fact that that is a struggle that women have, especially women that are fighting in battles and wars. The blood loss and just being weaker because of the sheer amount of blood loss and stuff like that. And I thought that was really well done from both perspectives. You've got the kind of sexist mentality of the men who are all just going at her saying, I can't believe you're having a period. Like, this is obviously going to hinder us, and this is why we shouldn't have women working with us, because, periods beat them, let alone battles and men. And then on Casca's side, she is doing everything she can just to prove them wrong, and she is absolutely doing that. She's badass. So I really, really enjoyed that. I've read a lot of fantasy books in the past, and I've never come across that topic being covered, and it was really interesting. Casca herself is just badass. I love her so much. I love the intimate moments I'm now starting to get between Casca and also Guts, where she's almost having flashbacks to conversations she's had where she's worrying about him and stuff, and then he's having little flashbacks as well to conversations they've had in the past. So I feel like I might get some sort of little budding romance there, which is exactly what I've told you that I wanted. I really hope she don't get her head cut off before they can snog, but I've said I'm expecting the worst in this series. So we're now at the end of that battle. I like the fact that a lot of the enemies that I've come across in the past are all starting to kind of come together. A lot of the chess pieces that have previously been moved are all starting to kind of link up now, and I'm really, really enjoying that. One thing I'm wanting to start seeing now is there were that little Tinkerbell looking fairy elf thing in, I think Puck is it, in the first few books, and then Puck disappeared because obviously we went into the past. But very recently, one of the soldiers has given Casca, who's passed it on to Guts, some fairy dust or something like that. And I'm guessing it's from Puck's people, where they sprinkle that on that heals them and stuff. So I'm interested to hopefully get Puck or one of Puck's mates introduced into the story and start getting that elf fairy magic going again, because I really liked Puck's positivity and energy. I really thought she was the light to go on, what's his name? Guts' dark. So yeah, I need some light. This series has got a lot of dark. I need some hope. I need some positivity. I need some giggles. So I'm going to shut up now. That's my thoughts so far at the end of Volume 7. I'm going to dive straight back into Volume 8 now. It's a nice day, so I might sit outside and just read the next volume, and then I will check back in with you when I've got some more thoughts. Oh, I've just been done by a curveball. I normally think I'm pretty good at guessing what's coming, but I didn't see what's just happened. Quite a bit's happened since we last spoke. So they went to that battle that I spoke about. I read all that battle, didn't react to it because I was just really immersed in it. Loved the fact that Griffith came up against that waste of space that had sex with him when he was a kid. And Griffith used the money that he was given to fund his troops and stuff like that. But I'm glad he died because, yeah, he's a sex offender, isn't he? So, deserves death. Death to that man. That made me right happy. But then, after the war, there was like the celebration. They went back to the town, and the town folk are all like bigging up Casca and bigging up Guts. They're like, Guts, you're right hard. Your sword's massive. You're a legend. We all love you. And then there's this ceremony, like this impending ceremony, where they're going to, I don't think it's night, but they're basically going to make Griffith and all the Band of the Hawk, they're going to make them like really important. But there's just so much going on in the background. You've got the Queen, who was cheating on the King, who doesn't want like the commoners to become powerful. So she's got a thing going on in the background, scheming and stuff. And then you've got the King who's trying to use the Band of the Hawks because they're just right hard. So he's using them for political and like military gain and stuff. So the Queen was setting up this ploy to kill Griffith, to poison him and stuff like that. And I'm just like, right, okay, I can see where this is going. Obviously, he's not going to die. But then she poisons him and he drops to the floor. And I'm just like, oh, shit, he's dead. And immediately, as soon as he died, I thought, right, that makes sense now. Like the start of book 1, 2, and 3, where I met Griffith. I think Griffith was one of the people in this like other world, this like in-between realm. I think Griffith was one of them because I remember Guts screaming Griffith when he was in there. So I thought, right, okay, obviously Griffith dies and then goes to that other place. So that all makes sense. And it shook me. I was just like, I can't believe Griffith's died so soon. I expected so much more from him. So I shut that chapter and then I just had a breather. I was just like, I can't believe I've lost him already. Where's that going to leave Guts and Casca? I just didn't really know what to expect. And then all of a sudden there's a fire in this room. The Queen's kind of sat there chilling. She's like, ha, killed him. Ha, unlucky pal. And then they're just like, whoa, what's going on here? The room starts smoking. And then she looks out window and Griffith's just walking. The next bit that I saw on the next page says something like, I thought you were dead. And then Griffith says something like, you would have thought so, wouldn't you? But then I shut the book and I ran upstairs to tell you, because before I continue reading that, I want to tell you what I thought. It's mental. I loved it. Twists and turns. Just class. So good. So good. I am now this far in. It's a different day, obviously, different outfit. Not that I always change my outfits because I'm a scruff, but I've got this much left, which is back to front, obviously. I'm getting used to that, but this much left. I think I'm like 2/3 of the way through volume 8. And today, because it's my first day off, I've got 7 weeks off because I work at a school. Woo! I don't know what I just did there, but I did it, and I'm not going to take it back. So, I'm going to finish it today because I've got loads of time off now for the next 6 weeks, which means loads more reading, which I'm buzzing about because I get to talk to you a lot about all books that I'm reading through summer holidays. There's just a few thoughts I've got before I dive back into reading today. And it is really about Guts and how proud I am of my little Guts. He's obviously not little. If he stood in front of me with his big sword, he'd be big Guts and I'd be bricking myself. But while he's in a book, he's little Guts because he can't kill me. But I'm really proud of the fact that he wants to go off and do his own thing. Everyone in this series seems to be obsessed with Griffith. And I think that's because Griffith is just such a master manipulator. I know I've said it in the past, but I stick by it. Guts seems to be like obsessed with him. Casca's obsessed with him. But Guts has put his big boy shoes on. Big boy pants, we'll say, actually. Put his big boy pants on and he's like, you know what? I don't want to just look up to Griffith all the time. I want to find out, like, who I am. At least that's the way it seems. I think that Guts has spent his entire life being told your value is in your ability just to kill stuff. And he's going through something at the moment where he's like, there's got to be more than this. You know, he was raised to be a soldier. Everyone that's around him in this village that they now kind of live in, and the band of warriors that he's surrounded himself by, and Griffith and Casca all see him as this, like, just aggressive monster. And whenever people in the village talk about him, they talk about how strong he is and how good he is with the sword. And even his own inner dialogue that he has in the books is all about how good he is with the sword, but not only how good he is, but also how safe he feels with his sword. So I love the fact that he appears to be at the minute trying to step away from the Band of the Hawk and just find his own path. So I'm hoping that happens. I'm hoping he can manage to detach himself from that. I really want him to take Casca along because, again, I want them to have little violent soldier babies together. That's the dream. But if they don't, they don't. You do you, boo-boo. Whatever he wants to do to find his little inner happiness, I'm all for it. And I really hope soon I get reintroduced to that Puck character. Because Puck feels like they're going to bring some sort of warm, fluffy feelings to this story. Because so far there's not been much fluff. There's been a lot of, like, sharp, jagged things. Very violent, very aggressive. And I could just do with just like a little calm down moment. And I think Puck will bring that to it. So I'm going to shut up now anyway. They're my thoughts. I hope that Guts goes off and does just nicer stuff for a bit. I know there's going to be loads of death and violence, but just for a little bit, some fluff. My man Guts cannot catch a break. He's just tried to leave, and he spoke to that other blonde character who was basically like, why don't you try getting with Casca? So they had a really long chat about how Casca more than loves Griffith. Casca almost like idolises and worships Griffith because she feels like he saved her. And you can just see that Guts is like, I can never have Casca whenever she thinks that way about Griffith, so I need to go away and work on myself. But as he's trying to walk away, this sword just appears out of nowhere. And as soon as I saw the sword, I was like, that is Griffith's sword. Next page comes, Griffith stood there and was like, we had that battle, and I told you, I own you. I own your death. I own you for battling. If you want to leave, you need to fight your way out and you need to beat me. And then Guts was kind of like, are you serious? After everything I've done, you're serious? Griffith's like, yeah, of course I am. Which just shows the kind of person that Griffith is. Griffith will absolutely use everyone, no matter what. Like, loyalty means nothing. It is for his own gain. So I am now on the page where Griffith has got his little pokey sword and Guts has got his massive behemoth of a sword. They're about to scrap. I'm buzzing, and I'll check in with you after, hopefully, like, my man Griffith gets hurt. I don't think Griffith's going to die yet, but I would like Guts to win his freedom. That'd be insane. This is how I feel right now. Yes, get in. So scrap happened, obviously, and Griffith had this master plan. In his head, he's like, right, so Guts is going to come for me. I'm going to parry him, and then after I've parried him, I'm going to stab him in the shoulder. But I might kill him, but if I kill him, it's like, well, if I can't have him, no one can. So he's got this big master plan, gets his big sword, and he's like, Kia! But it was almost like this, Kia! Because Guts was very hard, and he was just like, parry, Kia!
And then he left his sword on the shoulder and just walked off. Just absolute gangster move. Just walked off, and everyone's like, Guts, Guts, Guts. And Guts was like, nah, mate, see you in a bit. They're all like, you're not going to say bye? Nah, I'm too cool for this. Be seeing you. And he's just gone. He's literally just gone. I love it so much. Oh, I'm so happy. I mean, for now, obviously something stupidly miserable is going to happen soon, but for now, this is the happiness that I so crave. Guts has just bumped into some sort of crazy, scary school night in middle of woods. He'll bricking him, sending woods because he's on his own and he's scared because he's not been on his own for ages. But this massive, scary-looking thing's turned up on a horse and given what I think is another prophecy. It says, 1 year hence shall be the time of the eclipse. You and your friends, those yet unseen of the fleshless flesh, and that half of yours determined to rule, shall all be gathered then in that place. So just that first bit, obviously a year ahead, it says, you and your friends, those yet unseen of fleshless flesh. So maybe he's going to meet new people. It says, a torrent of madness, a tempest of death, for which the human body could never atone, shall sweep over you. But take heed, struggler, you were born from a corpse and began your life from death in the mud. You are closer to death than anyone, thus you excel in escaping it. I can't really make sense of much of what's been said there, but there's definitely a prophecy there saying something's going to happen in a year's time. And in the past, we had a prophecy from that big scary thing with the big horns. I can't do two hands because I'm holding the camera with the other hand. But there's been a few prophecies now, so I'm feeling like something humongous is coming. Something huge. And I'm buzzing to find out what it is. I hope it's not like Guts' death, obviously, because I want Guts to live. But there's been a lot of prophetic moments talking about death. Charlotte's father is sucking on her tit. Let that sink in. The king is sucking the princess's tit whilst she sleeps. This series is mental. Mental. What in the Ted Bundy am I reading? I reacted too soon when I said that he was trying to suck on nipple, because he then commenced to try and do even worse things to his own child. She fought him off, but what in the world? Griffith is currently tied up in a chamber, who's been whipped to within an inch of his life and passed on to some Quasimodo-looking dude to torture him. The king's upstairs trying to make babies with his own child, and Guts is nowhere to be seen, so he's not going to save the day. Somebody needs to come and just burn down this palace and kill everything inside it, because these are some demonic, horrible people. Guts has just rocked up and saved day. He gave me all warm, fuzzy feelings in my heart and my tummy. Since we last spoke, I've missed a couple of bits I wanted to talk to you about, but I was just enjoying it. So there was some sort of tournament, like Guts rocked up at this town and they were just having a big scrap. Loads of really hard people were fighting and everyone were really impressed. And then Guts rocked up and were like, I'll fight your hardest person. Whooped ass. That other person went away and I thought nothing more of it. Until it then skipped back to Casca. She now seems to be heading the Band of the Hawks, and their long-term goal is to try and get Griffith back, who's now been in this chamber for up to a year. A lot of time's passed in a short amount of pages. But then that person who got their ass handed to them by Guts turned up and was fighting the Band of the Hawks, killed quite a few people, and then was in a fight with Casca, seemed to be getting the better of Casca, and then Guts just rocked up out of nowhere. So he's been away for like a year and just booted this person in the bum, made him fall over, and then was like, Casca, don't let a street performer beat you. So he just rocked up after so long, which I'm right buzzing about because I really wanted Guts and Casca back together, and they are. But what in the world? Casca and Guts have just snogged. Best day ever. It's happened. They're having sex. Yes, they are going to make violent soldier babies. This is the greatest moment of the last 30 minutes. It's not the greatest moment of my life. Obviously, that would be excessive. But it's truly, truly bringing me some great feelings that the last hour's worth of reading haven't brought. In the last hour, there's been some very odd, dark things happening. So for these two to be mutually engaging in sexual activities is quite a positive moment. Just marvellous, truly marvellous. This thing is just, it's vile, it's disgusting, it's horrible. Every single time something good happens in this book, he just has to take it to like Dark Town. So I'm just like innocently reading this bit, and I will say that the art in here is very, very, very erotic. There's all sorts of like bum grabbing and nipple biting, and I mean, fair play for not skipping the foreplay. However, mid-scene, I'm just reading it and I'm thinking, okay, yeah, this is good. This is consensual, and they're enjoying it, and they've got boundaries. She's saying be more gentle, and he's like, okay. And then I skip a page, and then that big horrible thing in the past, you know, the big, what's the character called from the Goonies? Hey, you guys! That guy, there's a character in this book that looks like him. And then he's just like doing stuff to them. Out of nowhere, you skip a page, they're having consensual stuff, then boom, he's going to Pound Town. And I'm like, what? Where's that come from? So then I'm thinking, is this real? What's happening? This big thing called Gambino or something? I think Gambino was the person. Gambino, from what I remember, was the person who sold Guts when he was younger, when Guts got assaulted. So is Guts imagining this? Or is she imagining this? Because in the pictures, Casca's tied up with an arm round the neck. But it's just this series all over. You can literally go from reading something where you're like in all the feels, you're really happy for them all, you're like, this is class, and then all of a sudden, vile, horrible stuff that just makes you feel all minging inside and dirty. Just scruffy, horrible stuff. So I've finished this book anyway. Just finished volume 9. How do I put into words how I feel? So I love this series. It is absolutely phenomenal. But enjoyable is probably not the right word all the time. There are moments of enjoyment, but most of this series so far has been just full of trauma and, I guess, for me, hope. Just hoping things get better. After I reacted to that scene where they were just about to consummate and things got a bit weird, it then followed on to explain what had happened. So Guts was obviously having a flashback to when he got assaulted by that man who Gambino had basically allowed him to have his own way with Guts. And he's just got so much trauma. This man who is, you know, still living through his childhood trauma, the things that he went through. And that comes out every now and again, and that's what had happened in that last scene. His trauma and the things that he went through in the past had come out. He got angry, and I feel like that's because he was in an intimate moment, and obviously for him, whenever there's some sort of intimacy, he's having flashbacks to that moment with that man. And that came out in violence, but then once he'd realised, him and Casca worked between them, and they are very, very open about things they've been through. And I think Casca is the only person that Guts feels comfortable enough with, to be honest. And that's what he's done, and I think that's why their relationship is so special. After they'd had the conversation and he'd explained what had happened, he'd explained that he didn't understand why the only father figure, at least in his life, could do something like that to him, and then having to deal with the fact that he'd killed that man. He's working through that trauma, and I feel like Casket is the first person to ever help him work through that trauma. And then once he'd worked through it all, they got back to lovemaking, which was marvellous. And then, as always with this series, the end, and now I have to sit and ponder about where on earth this story is going next. It's kind of painful for me, I'll be honest now, because this is the last edition that I own of this book. And I've told myself when I started reading manga, I'm not going to allow this to become a financial drain for me. So I'm probably just going to have to continue to read some other books that I currently own until I've traded in a few more of my other books. And I've got to challenge myself at the minute that I don't want to put too much physical money into manga. I am really, really enjoying it, but I've got so much fantasy and general fiction and stuff upstairs. I don't want to spend physical money on it. So at the minute, I'm doing this little game with myself where I trade books in to Scarthing Books in Matlock, or I sell books on Vinted and then I buy more manga. Manga is definitely my main interest at the minute, but I just don't want it to become too expensive. I know it can be a wild hobby. But then on the other hand, I'm also obsessed with Berserk, and every single time I'm not reading it, all I can think about is I need to get my hands on the next book. I really want to continue to read it one after another. I don't want to leave a gap, because why would I leave a gap if I'm enjoying it so much? So who knows what I'll do. But for now, I don't have my hands on the next physical copy. They're not free on Kindle or anything like that, so that's not an option. I might go to my library and see if they stock any. Who knows? What a ride this has been so far. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. If you're not already subscribed to the page, please do. Drop me a comment if you've enjoyed. Tell me the kind of things that you want to see going forward. It really helps me out. Helps me understand what you want to see, because I want to put out content that you enjoy. If you've watched till this point, I love you the most. I will see you in the next one.